Finding the best couples therapist to work with is very hard and time consuming, but I'm going to share what exactly you can do to find them fast. I'm going to tell you how I always manage to find the best therapist near me and how you can do the same to find the best therapist in your area too in less than an hour. I know if you're going through a hard time right now, there's so many things that's going through your mind. You're probably anxious, worried about the future of your relationship. Maybe you have considered separating and divorce. So I know it's a very sensitive time for you right now, and that's why I made this video, because picking the right therapist can really make or break your couples counseling experience, and you really have to know where to find these best therapists in your area. And it really takes one or two bad experiences with a couples therapist for you to give up hope and think about alternatives. So I don't want that to happen for you, and I hope with this video it'll shed some light on what you need to do to find the best therapist in your area. I'll be walking you through the best ways to find a therapist, starting with really effective tips, building up to my absolutely best insider recommendation at the end. So you may have already thought of this, but one of the best ways you can start your research is to ask friends, family members who have been through a couples therapist or have worked through relationship issues if they know a good therapist they can recommend to you. In that case, at least you have someone who has had direct experience with a therapist and you can feel a little bit reassured. Although I would say take their experience with a grain of salt, because you probably don't have the same relationship issues that they had. I do have some therapist friends where I really trust their opinion, so I do ask if they've had any direct experience with a therapist. I would still do some research on that therapist to see what kind of approach they use. So if you have a friend who's a therapist, or if you're seeing a therapist for a different issue, you can ask that therapist if they know anyone in the field who provides really good couples therapy, because a lot of times therapists also have insider information that other people don't have. So at least you can be reassured that this recommendation is coming from a therapist. When I'm working with people on self-esteem or individually for relationship issues, they ask me for referrals, and I'm always happy to provide that. And I'm sure your therapist would be happy to help you. The next best resource is actually to check out the psychologytoday.com website. This website is an international website, so you can go on the website and select what you're looking for in the search bar. You can type up looking for a couples therapist. You can also search based on your area. So if you're from Toronto, for example, or if you're from the States, you can put in your province name or your city's name. You can say couples therapist in this area. So there are definitely filters based on the type of couples therapy approach, their specialization, couples therapy, individual therapy, relationship therapy, and also the fees for these therapists. So the keywords you can type in to Psychology Today would be either look for a couples therapist, or let's say you can look for a Gottman trained couples therapist. Gottman method is one therapy approach for couples. The other one, you could look for emotion focused couples therapist. That's also another well-known therapy approach for couples. Use these keywords to do your search either in Psychology Today, or do a Google search of these key terms, and you'll get a bunch of top websites and bios of these people who specialize in working with couples. This way you've already filtered a lot of therapists who may not be a good fit for you. Now let's say you've really filtered down your search and you've put in these keywords. Next, what I recommend you do is to actually look through the bios of these therapists or through their website, and I want you to specifically look out for these things. So get a sense of how many years of experience this therapist has. You can also look them up in their college and see the year that they've graduated and the years that they've been in practice. The other thing you want to look out for is their areas of specialization. If you're looking at their expertise, do you see that they are specializing in working with relationship issues or couples, or no, they have like a wide range of concerns that they work with? Like for example, if you look at my profile on Psychology Today, these are my top specialties. I think if you're looking for a really good solid couples therapist, you should at least see them listing that they do work primarily with relationship concerns in their top specialty. And then the other thing I pay attention to is really their picture. If they have a video on their website, I want to check that out to get a sense of who that person is. Is this someone that I feel comfortable with? One of the things I look at is, can I be comfortable if I'm talking to this person? So for me, it's important that through their bio or through a video, they convey some sort of kind-heartedness, some sort of an empathy, because my preference is always to work with someone who makes me feel comfortable and safe in a session. And what would also help is looking through their bios, and if they have listed their trainings, it would really help for you to get a sense of what those trainings are and how advanced they are with their training. Now, if you're wondering about the current strengths and weaknesses of your relationship, I have a great relationship test for you right under this video. You can click the link below and download your free relationship test now. Now, let's say based on your research, you actually selected someone to work with and you go to your first session. I still want you to assess your experience in the first session and get a sense of a few things. The first thing is, do you actually feel comfortable talking to this couples therapist? I would say give it 3 sessions. You attend the first session, you attend the second session. What's your comfort level when you're talking to them? Do you actually feel like they're understanding you? Does your partner feel like they're also being understood and validated? Can they validate both of your experiences without alienating the other person? Or do you feel like they're taking sides and you have to defend yourself in this session? So these are some of the clues to look out for. In the first 3 sessions, you're still getting a sense of that therapist. The other thing that therapist needs to have is for them to be able to, at the same time that they're empathetic and understanding, they have to be able to challenge you and your partner when needed. And I say this because you or your partner may have some blind spots. Maybe at times you get defensive where you shouldn't be defensive. You know, we're all human. Sometimes we do act selfish and we're just like looking out for ourselves. So is that therapist able to call that behavior out in the therapy room while also holding space for you to feel safe? Because it's a really fine balance to do that. I would say a therapist who has a lot of experience working with couples can be both very direct and empathetic. So if you find that gold combination in a therapist, this is great. And the reason this is important, because we all have destructive behaviors in a relationship. We may be controlling in a relationship, and this is pushing our partner away. We may have cheated on our partner and just having a hard time accepting responsibility because we feel a lot of shame. So in this case, the therapist has to be really good at holding you accountable for your behavior, you or your partner. I'm not going to assume who did wrong here, but that therapist needs to just gently challenge you on these behaviors that are sabotaging your relationship, also not pushing you to the edge of not wanting to be there because you feel totally attacked. Now, it's time for the best recommendation I have for you. There are some resources that unfortunately the general public doesn't know about, and I'm going to share those resources with you. So there are a few websites where you're going to find the top experts in the field. I'm going to go over what those websites are. When you're thinking about couples therapy, there are always certain approaches that work better for couples therapy. The best therapy approaches include emotion-focused therapy and the Gottman method. So I'll go over where you can find experts in these approaches. The first website is called ICEFT, and it stands for International Society of Emotion Focused Therapy. So if you go on their website, there is a directory where you can find emotion-focused family therapist or emotion-focused therapy for individuals. This is a great resource. I've actually done my training with them for couples, and I can really vouch for the quality of the training they provide. So I know if you find a therapist on that website, they've been vetted. The other website I can recommend to you is another website called ICEFT. This may sound the same. Again, here you see a list of therapists who specialize in emotion-focused therapy. You can go through these lists and find a therapist in your area. So I think if you quickly jump on these websites, you should really be able to find your therapist. The other one is actually the website for the Gottman Institute. They're really well known. They have a YouTube channel, and you can go on their website and you find therapists who have been trained in the Gottman method. And also, if let's say you're in Europe, you're in a remote town, and you can't find someone in your area who's been trained with emotion-focused therapy, then you can look up keywords like emotion-focused therapist association in my town, wherever your town is, because sometimes there are these local associations for emotion-focused therapy and they may have a directory where they can connect you. But I'm going to be very transparent with you. The most important thing here is that therapist approach and their training. I totally believe in the emotion-focused therapy approach. I know if my relationship is struggling and I go to an EFT therapist and still there's no improvement, at least I have no regrets that I've gone to the best therapist and really it's time for me to call it quits. I really do want you to see an EFT therapist to give your relationship a real chance to get better and heal. So what's the advantage of emotion-focused therapy over other couples therapy approaches? Watch the video on the screen where I tell you exactly what sets EFT apart and what you'd be missing if you don't get this therapy.